Alright, so I'm going to wrap up my little string of videos about the different bands that I play for with this final video, which will be about Iridium 77. And also in this video I'm going to sum up what it is that my work actually entails right now as a whole, because the number one question coming in is still how do you manage to make a living as a professional musician in an age when so many people have found it very, very difficult. So starting with Iridium 77, I guess this story starts with a guy called Gav Coulson. Gav was the artist liaison guy at John Hornby Skews. So a good number of the endorsement deals that I have are with JHS, and so Gav was the guy, my contact guy, if I needed some gear or some help with whatever. And that's, I suppose I met Gav, my first contact with him would be several years ago now. That's a nice vague expression, several. It means I can't really be asked to think about exactly how long it is. But it's been a good while now. And over the years, Gav became a good friend, and I also ended up doing a number of gigs with Gav. I'm just trying to think. First of all, we jammed together at JHS's event. He played in Swearbox. I stood in on bass with the Gav Coulson group, and I played for Oliver Dawson Saxon when Steve Dawson was unwell, and then Gav joined Oliver Dawson Saxon, and the offshoot of that, Oliver's Army. So we did a number of things together, and then Gav asked me if I would be interested in doing a little band to perform at guitar shows. So there'd be Gavin and myself and a good friend of Gav's, Tim Gillespie. So the idea of this was that we'd have a little band that played some sort of technically challenging stuff, some slightly off-the-wall, weird and wonderful stuff, and a kind of real eclectic mix. Because I think all three of us are kind of like that with our taste in music. We all like lots of different things. And this band, because it was basically designed to be a show-offy kind of a band, there were no real restrictions on, you know, we didn't have to kind of play any of the standard covers. We didn't have to think about whether anyone would know the material, or because predominantly the point of this band was to get up on stage at guitar shows and play a lot of notes and make the instruments sound great, show off a bit, entertain people who are coming from a different kind of a perspective than you know, like a regular pub or club audience. You know, you play at a guitar show, and it's kind of a nerve-wracking thing, because every member of the audience is a player and they're all watching your every move. So you kind of got to be able to not let that get to you, which is, I guess, a little easier said than done. Best not to think about it. And so we were able to kind of get our heads together and throw together this weird and wonderful, crazy set. And it really does go from metal to Frank Zappa stuff. We've got the challenging Rush songs. We've got some ABBA, we've got there's Michael Jackson, it's mad, and I love that aspect of it. So we went and did a guitar show, and with virtually no rehearsal at all, because as it just turned out, none of us had time in our schedule to rehearse. It sounds terribly unprofessional, but we all went individually very, very prepared, and made a good job of it. And so then, of course, what happens next is, you want to do more gigs, and we never for a moment thought that this was the kind of band that would go and do pub gigs, and we didn't have enough material anyway, because when you play at a guitar show, you do like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. So of course then the offers start coming in, so we talked about it, and being the kind of people that we are, we just said, well, yeah, let's do it. It sounds like a good idea. And I think all of us in the back of our minds were probably thinking, if we go and do this in a pub, we are going to die. This is not going to be a success. But we thought we'd give it a go. Now, I'm kind of like idealistic, possibly not very sensible, laid back kind of it'll be alright kind of a guy. And I think Gavin is probably quite similar to me. Tim is, I don't know really. Now, I've not known Tim as long, and I haven't worked him out quite as well as I've worked Gav out, I don't think. But I suspect that Tim doesn't actually really give a shit, I think he's the kind of guy who's very tempted by a challenge, but he's quite prepared for everything to go tits up and not really lose too much sleep about it. I think that summarises him quite well. Anyway, so in other words, what we're saying is there probably wasn't anyone in the band sensible enough to say, no, that's a really bad idea. No, you shouldn't do that. So what we did was we accepted a few gigs, playing this crazy, mad, eclectic, challenging, I'm looking for a word, to a lot of people inaccessible set of music, to some pub audiences. And would you believe, we've done quite a few gigs now, and every one of them has gone down an absolute storm. It's a belting band, and it's a winner. We've had nothing but great success with it, and so we're continuing to book some gigs. Although I have to say, everyone in this band is already very, very busy, and so we don't see Iridium 77 as being a band that's going to become a super busy band. It's a band that will do a limited amount of gigs, and I just hope that they keep coming in and we keep having as much fun as we have so far, because once again, I'm talking about two guys who are stunning to work with. They're both, when I'm on stage with them, I sometimes look over and I think, what incredible talent to be working with. It's an absolute honour to be considered good enough to work with these two guys. And they're both just like the most reasonable and easy to work with people, and we just have a lot of fun. We're always laughing. In fact, we're probably we're like naughty little schoolboys. There's not a sensible one among us, so that sounds like a recipe for good fun, doesn't it? So yeah, Iridium 77 is a great band. I love being part of it. When I said yes to it, it was probably a silly thing to do because I was already probably about as busy as I could possibly be. But I'm so glad I said yes to it, and I've made room in my diary for it, and I will continue to do so because it's stunning. And I hope that we get a chance to do some more guitar shows this year. Guitar shows are something that I've missed out on a lot because I am digressing here a little, so I'll try to keep it under control. But I've always loved guitar shows for obvious reasons, and yet I've not ever been to that many in the past because they're always on a weekend and I'm always working. And if I took some time out of gigging to go to guitar shows, that would cost me to go in, and then it cost me when I inevitably found something that I had to buy that I couldn't possibly live without. So probably they're best avoided at that. And it's been thanks to my association with Gavin and JHS that I've attended some, because I've worked them. Working them is the way to approach it for me, because I get to go to them and enjoy that experience and work and earn and maybe not spend, but if I do spend, then at least I've earned something as well. So getting back to the point then, right, so where I've arrived at now with my work, this is kind of how my diary works and how I make a living. These days gigs are predominantly at the weekend, and that's pretty much all I accept. I'll explain why in a moment. So we're looking at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm out gigging. And it can be anything from a pub, a club, somebody's party. I could be playing a festival, I can be doing a big stage. It may be the pub at the end of the road. It may be a great big stage in front of thousands of people. But that doesn't matter to me because I just love playing. Excuse me. I love playing, and I just don't want to stop. I don't just fill the diary because I need to earn money. I fill the diary because I love music and I love performing. It's what I'm all about. So those gigs are with the Paddy Maguire Band, or with the John Verity Band, or with Swearbox, or with Iridium 77. This year, I would say the biggest percentage of gigs is easily Swearbox. There's quite a lot of Paddy Maguire work booked in for this year. There's I've got a number of John Verity Band gigs, and there's some really nice gigs in amongst those. A couple little trips away that I'm really looking forward to. And there are several Iridium gigs I'm really looking forward to in there as well. I don't have many gaps left. 2018 is pretty much sewn up. I've got a few Saturdays I've got left, and I mean a few. There are several Fridays yet to sell, and Sundays are sewn up. So if anyone's watching this who's thinking of booking one of my bands, you better get a move on, because my year is pretty much already planned. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm out gigging. I have Monday off. I have Monday off because Monday is a musician's weekend, and because I didn't used to have a specific day off at all. And then the missus told me that I had to, which is only fair to family, really. We need at least one day where we can say, Daddy's not going to be working on that day. We can do something together as a family. And I was very reluctant at the time to agree to that. But I'm really glad I did. It's worked really well for us. And you do need to recharge sometimes. And I was going to tell you something else about that, but it's kind of going. I think that train of thought has been, no, that's lost, that's gone. So, okay, so I have Monday off. Oh yeah, the one little clause was, if something fabulous comes in, work-wise for me to do on a Monday, then I can accept it. But otherwise, it's a day off. And then I teach Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So during the week, I have the kids in the daytime. The missus comes home from work, early tea time, and I teach for 5 hours. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. So as well as those 4 bands and the teaching, which I do some lessons on Skype as well, in case anyone's wondering. Most people come here to my little studio, but I do a couple of lessons on Skype. At the moment, I have 1 lesson spot free. If anyone's fancying a bass or guitar lesson, or would like to come and have a little lesson in recording or ukulele, or I may even start teaching a bit of cigar box guitar soon. I've had some inquiries to see if I could teach some slide guitar, but I don't feel confident enough with that as yet. It's something I'm learning myself. I do a very good impression of someone who can play slide guitar at gigs, but what you see me play at gigs is probably the extent of my knowledge in that area. So yeah, so you know, as well as doing the teaching and the gigs at the weekend, I fit in the occasional guitar repair. I do the odd guitar modification. Nothing too involved though, because I simply don't have time. I do most guitar mods, but I don't do refrets. It's just a skill I've never learned. And then I do a bit of session work. Session work always sounds fabulous and fancy. When I mean the recording side of session work, but you know, the truth is, these days most session work is someone will contact me and say, I've got this track, it needs some bass, can I send it you? You put something down for me and I'll pay you on PayPal. Usually, you know, they'll Dropbox me a track or two, and I'll shift it over to Cubase, record some bass, record an alternate version. Usually I'll record a version I really like, then a version with like an alternate take on it, with maybe some alternate runs, alternate fancy stuff in, and then I'll do a version that's much more stripped back and basic and send them through, and then they can choose what they want, or they can edit those things together to get a nice balance of what they want from, you know, from those things. So that's pretty much the extent of what I do now. You know, it's 4 bands, and I organise a lot of the Paddy Maguire gigs, all the Swearbox gigs, most of the Iridium gigs, and I take what John Verity gigs I'm offered that fit in the diary. So you know, that's and almost everyone involved in all of the bands that I do uses a shared Google Calendar, so we can all look at it and say, yeah, we can do that gig then, you know, can't do it this date because Tim's with, you know, this weirdo band he plays with or whatever, you know. And that's basically how I operate. So I went from a time where it was all falling apart. There was just not enough work, not enough money, and I was ready to pack it. And the missus said I couldn't. She said, you've got to make it work. So this is how I've made it work. So I hope that that's kind of, for anyone curious, I hope that's made it clear. And I hope also that it's made it clear that whilst being a musician for a living is doing something that you love, and making enough money from it to support your family if you get it right. Whilst it's doing something that you love for a living, and whilst it's very enjoyable, and for me it still excites me, a lot of it's not glamorous the way that you imagine it might be, or certainly the way that I imagined it would be before I did it. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's, you know, up on a big stage, sometimes it's enormous crowds, sometimes it feels like it's all, you know, photo sessions and interviews, and then, you know, a lot of it is sat here in my studio on my own, fixing some leads, doing some soldering, which I hate, mending somebody's guitar that has some mystery issue that I can't get to the bottom of in the middle of the night. And you know, a lot of it's not actually that sexy, but you realise after a while that you do it, it's not really why you do it. You do it just because you love being around music, you love the being on the stage bit, and you love the tinkering with guitars bit, and because really you've decided somewhere along the line that you want that to be your life. The only thing for me which I've found difficult and frustrating about all of this is that the one thing that I've always kind of put aside along the way whilst I've been pursuing music is I've always had these songs of my own, songs I've written, part songs that are in my head. I've got tons of lyrics and tons of tunes and tons of great riffs, and really deep down that's always been my passion, that's what I really wanted to do, was do something with that material. And really the reason I haven't, I suppose, is because I didn't do it when I was younger, for reasons I'm not going to now. When I really should have, I didn't. And then you get older and you have a family, and you're like, right, well, I'm doing music for a living, but that doesn't mean I can just sit in my studio and write songs, because that doesn't pay money immediately. So you do things that you see money for straight away. And I've filled my diary with that stuff. And so the money comes in okay. And now that I've kind of got all that sorted, I'm thinking, you know, I really ought to get back to my own material somehow, because I released an album, I released an EP, I'll do another video more about this stuff, but I released some stuff, and then I've had a long layoff, and I feel in a way like I sort of let it all slip away, which is the title of one of my tunes. But anyway, what I'm doing I only have very small little bits of free time here and there. But here in my studio I have everything I could possibly need to record my tunes, and so whenever those little bits of time come along, I put a bit more down, and I do have a bunch of tunes that are ready to put out there, and I've not decided exactly how I'm going to do that yet. I do have one tune that's coming out on the 2nd of February, and I'm very much looking forward to putting that out there. So yeah, you know, I've filled my diary, I'm working, I'm earning, maybe I should just be happy with that, and content. But you know, deep down I've got this, I really want to get some of my own music out there. And it's not because I still want to be a huge star, or because I think that I'm going to put a tune out one of these days that's going to make millions of pounds. It's just that having that creativity in you, you want to share it, you want to put it out there. So if I've got one regret, it's that I've neglected that stuff. And part of what these videos are going to be about as we go along is I need to find ways to get that material out there, and without letting myself down on any other aspects of the work that I do. So I've rambled even more excessively than usual in this video. If anyone's made it to the end of this video, you're probably entitled to some kind of reward, some form of medal or something. So thank you very, very much for that. I'm going to sign off now, and more videos coming soon. Send me questions, make comments, fire insults at me, I don't care.